That's all good.
And let me pull my notes up too, so I have those. All right, let's see. Is it live on my end?
Oh yeah, looks like it. Ads
All
are
right.
running.
Cool. Yep, it's working. Sweet. All right. So, hello. I know it's been like 2 weeks since I have been your host for the Trek Central live streams, but I'm back. And I've got our guest, Marcus Bronzy. If you want, I'll go ahead and I'll give you like however much time you want to give your spiel about your channels and all the stuff that you do before we get into it.
Certainly. Oh, spiel time. Marcus Bronzy. I'm a presenter, and I think the reason that we've kind of connected today is I'm part of Trek Culture, which is an arm of What Culture, which is a YouTube channel which creates top 10 lists, ups and downs of series, and also quite a lot of content around Star Trek with the Trek side of things. But before I even get into that, I just want to say there's an amazing team that are working really, really hard. We've been doing this for about 3 months now, 3.5 months, and I just want to say a massive shout out to Sean Ferrick, you and all the writers that make some amazing articles. Adam Cleary is an amazing presenter as well. He's churning out loads of videos. He does the Picard ups and downs, so he did the recent episode. And of course, the wizard editor, Chris Thompson. He's amazing. He puts together some amazing content on YouTube that is a real joy to watch. So even when we put together content and get that over to him, the edits are amazing. So at Trek Culture, we basically love the canon, we love the lore of Trek, and we're just doing our best to kind of absorb and create content around the new stuff, but also try and find some very interesting top 10 lists and comparisons and ups and downs from, the 50 years and, 500 or so hours of Trek stuff that's out there. And I'm really, really happy to be a part of that. Ori Styler's an amazing presenter as well. Sorry, I almost missed you out. And there's a few other people that I think I should have named as well, but there's a great team of people that are just really happy to start contributing to the side of Trek that you guys are involved in, which is amazing. And myself as a presenter, I've got some other channels that I work on myself. How to Kill an Hour is a podcast that we've been doing for about 5 years. It's like a techie podcast, but it's very nice casual conversation. And on that, we also invite guests on. So we have guests that are based in the world of tech, but we also have some quite big entertainment guests as well. So we've had Jazzy Jeff on the show. Recently had Shaggy on the show. We've had some great British comedians and artists. And yeah, so that's what I do. So I'm a presenter of sorts. But I think today I'm definitely here flying the Trek Culture flag.
Yes, absolutely. And you're our second Trek Culture guest now, because I think we had Adam on like our second stream. It was either our first or it was our second. Yeah, because first was 24-year-old Trekkie. So.
Oh, wicked. Yeah. So, and I just want to say before we even go on, thank you very much for having me on the show, man.
Of course.
I really, really appreciate it.
It's
an honor.
Trekkies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so real quick, the first thing we're going to talk about before we even get on to the topic, is we're going to talk about Lower Decks today. Full on Lower Decks. We got the confirmation. It comes out August 6th. I feel like a lot of people are excited. I am excited anyway. Like, this is something I've been looking forward to for a while. But going into that, I guess the first thing we can talk about is first reactions. So if you want to go ahead and give me your first reactions for Lower Decks.
I was like, an animated series? What? Really? Nah, this isn't serious. That was my first thought was, I need to look into this. I need to check that this is real. And then once I kind of dug a little bit deeper, and I saw that we had Kurtzman involved in, I think it was a 5-year deal that we read around with CBS when we found out that Alex really, really was interested in creating mini-series and other bits of content just outside of what we saw from Discovery. And obviously we've seen that more with Strange New Worlds. And then my second reaction when I found out that it was true was kind of intrigue, because with a cartoon, we automatically, as people, I don't know about you, but we tend to take live a bit more seriously. when something's animated. Generally, as people, if you don't feel that way, great, because I'm with you as well. Because I take animated series just as seriously as other things. So it was my next kind of thought was how seriously they're going to take it. And then as I read into it, and I've seen the kind of talent that they're onboarding, it's become something that's more and more interesting. So now I'm intrigued and I want to learn more. And I think today is going to be a really good conversation about kind of speculating what we think is going to kind of be shared with us over the next kind of few months or so as we kind of lead up to this show coming out. So now so I went from really, then I went to, is this serious? Then now I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, how are you going to put this together? Because we've been kind of given little breadcrumbs. So we know that we've got, oh God, his name's going to slip me for a few seconds, but a gentleman that was heavily involved, Mike McMahon. Rick and Morty. Mike McMahon, sorry guys, I mispronounced the name. Mike, that's me. I've done one. There we go.
I think that's how you pronounce it. Is it Mike McMahon?
Mike McMahon. Okay. Yes, Mike McMahon. Yeah, Mike McMahon, who's very well known for Rick and Morty. Now that's in the mix, that's also made me more intrigued as well, because we know Rick and Morty does kind of poke fun at the science fiction genre. So are we going to have a Trek that is willing to take the mick out of itself? And I think we're probably going to get into this as we have this conversation. Yeah, in a way, because there's the bits that have been leaked to us, bits of information shows that we might have Trek having a bit of fun with itself, and that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, I'm absolutely excited for that. I kind of very similar. Sorry, I was struggling with some technical difficulties. I don't know why, but the stream went kaput for a second. But
did it? Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm Ethernet. I have my Ethernet cord in. I don't know why it wouldn't be working. But yeah, I have very similar response. I do like Rick and Morty. I don't keep up with it. Like, I haven't seen the newest season, but up until the most recent season, I did watch it, and I do like it. I think it's pretty funny. I didn't see Solar Opposites, which is also the other Mike McMahon show, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about his style of storytelling, but knowing he was the one behind it, I was extremely excited, just because I'm a big fan of comedy. So having someone, so heavy into the comedy side of adult animation and making a Star Trek show, that I was extremely excited for. I like the animation style that he has. So seeing that, like Star Trek in his animation style, is also really nice. And as a cosplayer, and I'm sure I'm going to get called out if I haven't already, I did say I was planning on cosplaying Ensign Tendi. So as a cosplayer, there's a lot of good material. There's so many characters. I'm sure there's going to be a ton more. And that's not just for me, that's for anyone. I know the Star Trek community is also a huge cosplay community. So you've got all these new characters people can start making, uniforms for, and everything that's come out so far about the comedy, it being a comedy, and I agree. I don't think it's going to take itself too seriously. I feel like it's going to poke fun at itself, especially since they've even said they're it's on a ship that doesn't matter. So putting them on something that just doesn't matter, I can see so much wild stuff happening.
100%. I mean, we're used to seeing the best of the best, and I think, Brie, I'll just bring it back to kind of my journey into Star Trek. So my recent kind of reawakening of love for Star Trek was it's about 2.5 years ago, I think 3 years ago, where I've always watched Trek growing up. It's always been something where we've been very lucky, I think, everybody that's kind of fallen into this, to have reruns of Star Trek. Yeah. Whatever country you're in the world, there's constantly reruns on where you can always pick up, there's still the original series I can just bump into sometimes when I'm flicking across channels. And it got to a point where I was like, I'm seeing bits and bobs of canon, but I just want to get through it all. So I made a challenge to myself a couple of years ago where I was like, I am going to watch everything right from the start. So I watched the original series, and I watched the animated series, and I carried on from there all the way up until pretty much I wrapped everything up, and then Picard dropped. So it's really interesting to kind of see that journey where over every single series that we've seen, it's always kind of been, most of the time, showing you the best of what Starfleet has. So, for example, we've got Galaxy-class ships, we've got ships that are designed to show the best side of Starfleet.
It's always
so it's really...
Yeah, and it's always like their... Oh, what is it called? It's a Navy term, I should know this. The main ship. The one that's like the show-off ship. What is that called? Why can't I think of that right now?
It's on the
The
tip of my tongue.
flagship, fudge.
The flagship.
That's what
the
it was,
flagship ship.
flagship. Yeah, it's always
The
like the
flagship ship.
flagship ship.
Yeah, it is. Or even when we're in sensitive areas, like when it's Deep Space Nine,
Mhm.
we know that's not a flagship station, but that is still a super important part
Yes.
of Starfleet's message to show how they can work with other planets, other species. So even then, even though you can say, all right, because I know people are gonna be like, well, that wasn't, technically that was a bit of a hunk of junk that O'Brien had to fix up in certain ways, but it's always been about. So it's very interesting to see that. And we had a little tweak of Lower Decks with the Next Generation. There was an episode called Lower Decks, I believe, where we did see some junior officers kind of their challenges, what it was like to kind of be underneath Riker, seeing him cock his leg up on a comm desk from afar. Do you know what I mean? Seeing Picard, stroll through the corridors and experiencing officers from a lower ranking officer's point of view. And even there, when you watch that episode, there are little bits of fun that they poke, even though there are some serious bits. There's a dangerous mission within that episode. Like, it's very interesting to kind of see that angle. So the fact that we're going to see kind of an area of Trek where it doesn't have as much love as you'd say the flagship would have. See, you're going to see a bit more gallows humor. You're going to see some laughs. You're going to see a ship. I believe we were talking about this before we started the stream. There's talk about how they're always got a ropey holodeck. So stuff like that, that, and that's going to cause an issue for them. Being on a ship where your holodeck doesn't even work, you can't even have a bit of fun. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Are the replicators not going to work properly? Are they going to make a really bad Raptor Geno? Do you know what I mean?
I think one of the reasons I think I'm gonna like it so much is because it so heavily plays on that. Is like, as someone who was in the Navy and was a lower ranked person in the Navy, I'm like, man, if I had a list, if I could write a show about the shenanigans that we got up to when I was on the carrier, I could write a book. So I can promise you there's gonna be so many hilarious plot lines, and there's gonna be times where I'm like, yeah, been there, but like obviously not the alien version of it, but like, no, I relate to that. So because there's been times, I'm trying to think, in the Next Generation, there were definitely times specifically where, even with like Barkley, where I was like, I just related to him so much because he was just late for work. It wasn't his fault. He was just like, get distracted, and I'm just like, that's me, and I'd get yelled at, and I'm just like, man, this is too real. I really, really relate to Barkley. So I think that I'm gonna have a lot of that similar sentiment with Lower Decks, and feeling like the stories that they're telling are more human stories, like things that you as a person could relate to, and not, it's not a captain or a first officer or someone important. So I am excited about that part.
100%. I can relate to making mistakes. Do you know what I mean? I've not been in the military myself, but I'm sure there's things that you've seen that you're definitely going to relate to within this series coming out. That's gonna be cool. And I know definitely my place of work over the years. When I've done jobs before, I've kind of got into presenting. I've made some horrendous mistakes. Do you know what I mean? And I've been in
don't even get me started. My first video on Trek Central, I had oh boy. Woo.
Yeah, so I've done all. I think I worked in a DJ equipment shop, and there was a high shelf of really expensive speakers, and I tried to move one of the speakers at the end of the row and dust it down to keep the shop front looking clear. And I did something, and the whole basic shelf of speakers that cost like thousands of pounds just fell all over the floor while there were customers in the shop. And I remember just looking, going, oh, I'm never going to live this down. It took me ages to live it down. Like, oh, look, there's Marcus, the guy that, he smashes up all the speakers. Oh, Marcus, we sold one of your speakers the other day, heavily discounted. So, imagine making a mistake like that, but you're on a starship. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I think another aspect that they're going to really heavily hit on is, and especially if they take any kind of, like, pull from the real world, is, the not necessarily going through your actual chains for things. Like, you want something, you don't always go through your correct chain, or you want something from someone else, you offer a favor, and like, I bring a pie from the ship's galley down to you, and you let me take my trash down first. Like, there's always little things like that. And I think that those are the kind of things that they're gonna like focus on, like the real world, what it's like to be in a situation where you're just an average Joe on a ship, and not and also the heavy comedy of, I think they said they're how do they call it? Second contact or something, or secondary contact, where they're the people that go there after first contact's been made. So I think that's going to be something that's really fun that they do as well, with how they're going to send the story.
Yeah, I've forgotten how they've spun the thing, and I think we can put this out to our listeners that are live at the moment as well. I think it's never going boldly where no one has gone before. It's like going somewhere where they're rarely going somewhere where no one's ever been before.
Yes,
someone will know, and I'm going to misquote that and let somebody remind us of what that should be.
I think it's rarely going where no one has gone before is I think what it was.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that that's right up my alley, and we need some comedy in Star Trek, because a lot of the Star Trek that's out right now is just, and I like, heavy stuff. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a lot of heavy Star Trek right now. So it's going to be really, really nice to have just something to watch and laugh at, and just not be depressed after you see it.
I mean, there was a lot of kind of, there's a clapback on the first season of Discovery where people found it was a bit too dark, and they definitely remedied that in the second series of Discovery. I really liked what they did with the second series of Discovery. But then there was also, some short treks, which over here in the UK we've really struggled to get our hands on, actually. And I've managed to watch all of the short treks. But there was an episode with Sylvia Tilly.
Yes,
Mary
that was
Wiseman.
a good one.
And that's kind of she's got quite a comedy vibe to her, hasn't she? She's quite funny. She says inappropriate things. Yeah, and do you feel like that might be kind of the energy that we might be getting in Lower Decks then?
Absolutely. I think that we're going to get a lot more like Ensign Tillys, and especially with that kind of personality where you're like, why you're not the best of the best, like air quotes, So but we all love Tilly, so you don't have to be the best of the best to be an extremely loved character. So I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to see a lot of dysfunctional characters with a lot to love, and that's what I'm excited for.
100%. And just what they get up to on a day to day. I'm really curious to know what a California class ship does. I'd really like to know, what the vibe is like on a California class ship. I feel automatically like when someone says California, I feel like they're going to be relaxed.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is there's a joke in the Navy when you get assigned ships in the U.S. If you're on an East Coast ship, you're going to have a bad time. If you're on a West Coast ship, you're going to have a great time, because out in California, all the carriers that are based out in California, the vibe is great. Like, it's just so laid back and fun. On the East Coast, when you're stationed on a carrier from Virginia, like the Norfolk carriers, oh man, no. I was on one from either side. I was on a San Diego carrier and a Norfolk carrier. And the East Coast carriers, I would say it's a lot more like your, cream of the crop kind of vibe. Everyone it has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect and by the books and very like methodical, and it's boring. It's lame. East Coast ships are not the vibe. So I think if hey, that could also even be a play. I'm curious to see if anyone who worked on the writing team was in the military, because the California class also makes me think of my West Coast carrier, because it was just a chill vibe, and that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, yeah, no, this is I'm gonna like this show. I don't care what anyone says. I know a lot of people are like, well, not a lot of people. There's some people out there that are like, do we really want like a comedy animated Star Trek? Yes, we do. We really do. At least I
think
do.
there's nothing wrong with trying. It worked really, really well before. I think the animated series, the original animated series, it was an award-winning show. So it did really, really well. And I think myself and the wizard that is Chris from Trek Culture were talking about this the other day. It's quite a known fact that the first season always gets hammered. Whenever we have a series that comes out, the first season always everyone it's change, and it is uncomfortable. Sometimes it's hard to watch the new direction that Trek goes in. So if they manage to nail it and they manage to turn it around within the first season, they've done better than many other shows have in the past. It's taken a few seasons for certain shows to warm in. I know a couple of people that still say, the next generation, first couple of seasons,
Mm-hmm.
just go to the third. And I'm like, I kind of like to see the journey myself. So,
Yeah.
I think I'm ready for it to take a paste in. I think people will not like it. But then also, when you try something new, you might drag in some new people. We might find some Rick and Morty fans that have
Yep.
been loving that, or solar opposites that come
Mm-hmm.
over to this and they now kind of join us over in the Trek world. And I think
Yeah.
that's what it's about, really. I think if we're all right with having a bit of fun, like it's been proven with Ensign Tilly and other characters in Trek, that we can have fun. Or Barclay, it's so
Yeah.
good. There's always been an example, hasn't
Yeah.
there, of somebody who's always fun. Even like when I'm thinking of Deep Space Nine, you've got Quark. So
Mm-hmm.
he's someone who's also quite fun and jovial. So I think we need that. And if we have a season
Absolutely.
where we have that in a bit more abundance, it could be a really, really good watch. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
also, I'd love to see it. Everything you've told me about your point of view, I'm kind of interested to kind of see what that's like. So that would be really cool to see what it's like from someone who's serving in Starfleet, looking up at these captains making really
Mm-hmm.
sensible decisions. You know what I mean? Engage, and then you hear them in the lower deck saying engage. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
they're
mean? Or
like
when
mocking.
captain does an announcement over the ship comms, they're going.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I'll go out on a limb here and I'll put a bet on this live stream that I think this might be, and this is from a Deep Space Nine fanatic. I think this might successfully be the best pilot of a Star Trek series. I think. Given
Controversial, like it.
given his history and in shows, the they always seem to start out strong when he's a showrunner, and that's something I'm really excited to see. So I almost want to put money down and be like, yeah, no, I really think that the pilot episode of Lower Decks is going to be a lot of people's new favorite pilot. I think that's what's going to happen.
Mm. I'm super, super interested to see that. I know I'll be there. I'll be
Oh yeah.
watching however I can. And you know what? I think you're onto something, because this day and age, we have the power of social media,
Mm-hmm.
and I think kind of when we combine what you've just said there with the kind of fact that we've got all these audiences, like I just mentioned, the Rick and Morty side of things, and Trek's got some more heat on it because Discovery's doing really, really well, and then we've got Strange New Worlds. You're right. This could be something that just from the energy really brings people in. You kind of know, like when I'm going to over exaggerate here, but like when Beyonce drops an album out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, "Oh God,
Oh my
I just have to have a
god.
listen to
Yeah.
it." We're gonna go, and
Right
that
now.
streaming on that day for that album is going to be sensational. Whether or not people like it or
Mm-hmm.
not, we'll see afterwards. But that pilot, just that power of everyone coming to have a listen, that could be quite interesting. So I think you're definitely onto something there, Brie.
I'm really thinking that's going to be the case. Now, before we move past initial opinions, we do have a donation from Amir. He said, "So, are we going to see any Star Trek's first janitor?" And I like that because that's like another one of those things where I hate to keep bringing up the real world military, but everyone, like, you have cleaning stations. Of course, the higher ups don't have to do it, but the ones
Yeah,
in the lower, like we're the ones cleaning, we're the ones doing this, and we're the ones doing
yeah,
that. And so I think
yeah.
it's going to be more, instead of a janitor, you're just going to see them having to pick up the pieces of like failed missions and stuff. Is what I think is going to happen. Though it would be nice to see a Starfleet janitor.
Well, we did have Booth B. I'm not calling him a
Yeah,
janitor, but he was
yeah.
the groundsman. He was the groundskeeper at Starfleet Academy. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see a Boothby style character, maybe
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. But yeah, I'd love to see that, someone cleaning that. Like, come on, everyone has to poop, right? As far as I'm aware, maybe not Odo. Most people in the Trek universe have to eat and poop. I'd really like to know what happens when that goes wrong on a ship, on a
Yeah.
California class ship. What happens? Are we allowed to swear on this?
Oh yeah.
What happens when shit goes down? Right, quite literally. Yeah, when
Mm-hmm.
the shit hits the fan, what happens on a Starfleet ship? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. That would be pretty cool. A
Yeah.
nice janitor angle.
I think that's gonna be fun. So I guess one
Yeah.
of the things we want to move on, like one of the next things we can move on to, and something, it's gonna be a little bit of a shorter topic, but something that kind of took me by surprise, a lot of other people by surprise, is how soon we're getting this show. August 6th is a month away. So
Oh right,
it's around the corner. There was no real, like Picard, they put out the teaser, months and months and months. I mean, we got teasers and stuff, but I'm talking they put out trailers months and months and months and months in advance. We just barely got a trailer recently when they announced the air date. and it was like, it's coming out next month, get ready. And I'm just like, I'm guessing they were all just in quarantine, like, hey, I don't got shit else to do. Like, might as well just knock it out because it's animated.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have the voice actors and an opportunity where they can record at home, it makes it a little bit easier. It's not like, live action. That's hit a huge roadblock right now. Animated, hey, it's your time to shine as an animated show right now if you have the means to work from home.
100%. Brie, I think you've hit on a really important point, and I think at times like this, when there is a big economic change or a big world change, we do see people flourish or industries flourish. In animation, we've seen from the likes of South Park that people can really turn around TV quality output very quickly. Absolutely. Right? And I know South Park isn't animated in the same way that Lower Decks might be, but South Park's clinch over the last few years has been being really on the pulse of things. And when you're doing live and you're trying to shoot something that looks as phenomenal as Picard did, it was beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Seeing Picard himself walking through the vineyards, it looks amazing when they're in France.
Yeah.
But that takes time. That takes a massive crew of people. That takes everything coming together.
Hairdressers, makeup artists,
where they shot it was pretty stunning.
Directors,
Exactly. Loads of money and loads of resources. But with animation, like you just said, we can turn stuff around a bit more quickly. Even if they had to get actors to come into the studios to record, that can be done
one at a time,
relatively more safely. They can come in and work in the booth separately. So 100%, this is the time when content like this can be turned around much more quickly. And I think that's something that they would have had practice on when they were producing Rick and Morty, Solar Opposites. So they've done all of that. They've done the grunt work. They know how to make this come together. Now they just have to focus on, is it canon? Are we sticking to the content? Where are we going to break the laws and really go in our own direction? Where are we going to have a bit of fun with it? And that can be quite interesting because they know how to get the structure out there. They can turn it around quickly. Now they can just focus on making it fun content. So there could be stuff. I don't know about how the production process is working for this, but there could be stuff that they're putting in now, lines that they're changing, scenes that they're putting in, just to reflect where we are in the world right now that you simply can't do with live. We could have shot something last year, and we can't go back and put together a set. We haven't got that in budget. But with animation, I'm not saying it's easy, but it can easier to do it. So 100%, Brie. I think that's something that's really interesting. I really look forward to seeing how that pans out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was very shocked at how quickly they said it was coming out. But I'm not going to complain at all. We need it right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yes. I need that. And also, now that everybody's got a bit of extra time on their hands, I'm going to throw this out there. Cameos, please. Can we have some cameos?
That is something that I was going to put. That's definitely on our top. Oh no, you're fine. But that is definitely something I want to talk about, is who we want to see pop up. But before we pop on to the next topic, which I think is talking about his previous shows, we have another donation from Amir who said next they're gonna have a Welcome to Quark show, kind of like Space Cheers. Yeah, I would watch that. I would 100% watch that.
I'll be all over that. Thank you very much, Amir, for that. Thank you. Welcome to Quarks. I'd like that.
Yeah, I would love that. Like just da 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 da. It's like just Quark and oh man, I would 100% sign up for that. But
yeah, I'd be up for that.
Yeah, something we kind of did already hit on was the fact that Mike McMahon has worked on previous shows, and I've watched Rick and Morty except for the most recent season, but I haven't watched Solar Opposites yet. I don't know if you've watched either or both. Yeah, I haven't seen Solar Opposites yet.
Rick and Morty I've watched. Solar Opposites I have not watched.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone in chat's seen it yet. Give us an opinion, because I would love to be able to talk about Solar Opposites, so if someone in chat has seen it, that'd be great. But from what I've heard, it has such a similar vibe to Rick and Morty. And out of everything I've heard, for the most part, has been really positive. But Rick and Morty was a cultural sensation. Let's be real. Whether you like it or not, love it or hate it, because there are people who hate it. Love it or hate it, it's everywhere. So, and Solar Opposites it's kind of one of those things too. It's been everywhere. Uh-oh, I think we're having stream frame drops again. Uh-oh. Hold on, let me check something.
Let me just do a little pause. I'm going to pretend to freeze. All right, I'll hold for a while. anything that I say now can repeat. Yeah, so I've not watched Solar Opposites. I don't know if it's available here in the UK. I think I could probably get my hands on it if I could. Oh, Bree's left the frame quite literally.
No, I had to run.
I wanted to. Still in the room.
I had to check and make sure that my because I was like, okay, I have my Ethernet cord in, but it's plugged into my router, but for whatever reason it's like not it's registering, but I guess my Wi-Fi is just absolute crap right now. So we have audio, but we don't have videos being crap, and hopefully it'll fix itself. It fixed itself before. I apologize, and there we go. It fixed itself. I don't know what's going on.
Are we looking good, guys? Oh, yeah. In the comments, you want to let us know? Are we looking good? Are we moving around?
On my end, it looks like we are. But yeah, no, I don't know what's happening with my Wi-Fi. It could be because we have storms here right now. It's just kind of making things funky, but it looks like we're back.
What are we talking about? We're talking about like a Cheers version of Quarks where Morn never says anything again.
Yes.
Morn still says nothing. Like he did actually say, apparently there's rumors that you hear him saying stuff in the first time you see him in Deep Space Nine. But other than that, silent. But and then we were talking about, what was it again?
The solar opposites in Rick and Morty. And
that was it, yeah. Rick and Morty.
Amir said solar opposites is meh. And thank you again for the donation. But I think it's very hard to compare something like Rick and Morty that was such a cultural sensation to Solar Opposites, which is kind of like a follow-up. And that's one of my fears with Lower Decks is people maybe who watch Rick and Morty but don't watch Star Trek expecting something that they aren't going to get, if that makes sense. I'm a little worried that they're going to expect Rick and Morty and not... Damn it, it's doing it again. And not get Rick and Morty. So, hey guys, I know you say you don't mind that it's just audio, but to me it's bothering me, and I apologize again. But I wish I knew how to fix it, other than turning off my phone's Wi-Fi might help. I don't know. But, yeah, it's just on and off. I apologize, guys. But, yeah, so Solar Opposites, I've heard questionable. I've heard good stuff, but I've never heard anyone say, like, oh, it's shit. But I hear a lot of, like, oh yeah, it's okay. And I hear a lot of people say, I've heard some people say it's better than Rick and Morty, but it could be those kind of people who don't like the same... Again, I haven't seen Solar Opposites, so I don't know if the humor is similar, but it could be that it's a slightly different style of humor compared to Rick and Morty.
Yeah, well, I can only presume, like with Rick and Morty, we know Justin pours a lot into those characters, and they really let him just go. I think that with Rick and Morty, he does a lot that we see, and there's a lot that we don't see that stays on the cutting floor. You know, that's an old kind of saying, but stuff that just doesn't get edited in. And we see that when we kind of watch, there's an episode where they watch Interdimensional Cable, right? Where they just literally watch the most random shows, and you can hear him just having fun and cracking up and being silly. And with Solar, it's and you can hear him laughing. It's just
it's like random, like, he's literally like grandmas, where grandmas are fighting grandmas, and it's like you hear him laughing, and that's because I'm an improv actor, so for me, I love when I can hear someone just ever so slightly like trying to not break character, and they're just like fuck like break character just ever so slightly, and it gets kept. That's one of my favorite moments, because you can just tell like they're having a blast doing what they're doing. Exactly. So stuff like that is cool, but then some people that are really into, people love like the jargon side of sci-fi. They might not connect with that. So then with Solar Opposites, again, I've not seen it. It all just depends on what the balance is how hard is the science and how hard is the comedy. So we're gonna see with Trek, with Lower Decks, we're gonna kind of see what happens with that. You know, are we going to get real jargon combined with real comedy at the same time, or is it going to go more in one way and more in the other, or is it going to be a good balance? And I think we're just going to have to see how they go with it. And the good thing with this is they will take, we've seen it with with Discovery, they will take on board general criticism. So if people just say, and I'm not dissing anyone that said this in the chat, like, oh, it's crap, I don't like it, that they'll just know that you don't like it. But if we drop feedback about what we want more of, like for example, me, bald Klingons was unreasonable with Discovery. I was like, no point for it. I wasn't a fan of bald Klingons either.
Yeah, the whole Worf era of Klingon, my favorite type of Klingon. Let's go with that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's fine. But so with this, we're just gonna see. We're gonna see what direction they take it in. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
You
sure.
cut
Cool.
out for
Yeah,
just
I
a
just
second.
like, yeah, we're gonna see what direction they take it in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, so unfortunately, because I haven't watched Solar Opposites, I can't talk too much more on that. And I don't want to talk too much about Rick and Morty right now because this is supposed to be about Lower Decks. But given that he has such success, I do think that we're going to have a really good time with this show. But I guess one of the things we can move on to next is we can do a two-parter. What we want to see from the show, which we kind of already talked about, and who we want to see in the show. And so those are the topics I think are going to be the most fun to discuss. But what would you like to see from the show more than anything else?
Okay, so because we've seen this, apparently where the show is set is 20 years after Nemesis, right? Mm-hmm. So we still have Picard in the mix. We still have Riker in the mix. We still have characters that are of that area. We still have Voyager in the mix.
Yeah.
So for me, I would like some references towards the bigger ships. Now, I'm not necessarily saying we need voices to appear. Obviously, that'd be great, but I'd love to know how the ship, the California class ship that they're on, looks to these other ships, and the kind of legend that we have from our Janeways and our Picards. Yes. And our Cisco's, like, of that era. I really kind of want to know what that is. So for me, I would really like to see how they position themselves and how they look at the rest of Starfleet. That's one thing I'd like to see. Mm-hmm. And another thing I'd like to see is more of the alien species that we don't always see a lot of, some of which we saw in the original animated series. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Brie. There's the cat-looking race that we would always pronounce wrong. Yes. Me and Brie are terrible with it. Is it the I'm going to do it.
Cation. I want to say Cation, but I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I live right next to New Orleans, so it's so easy for me to accidentally say, Cation. But no, it's Cation.
Exactly.
It's the other one.
Catsian. You know, Tyrellians with 4 arms. You know, stuff like that. I want to see more of that because we can. And there's certain things in the animated series that we saw first time around that they could explore because they could just draw it.
Yes.
And when you watch the original series, they just didn't have the special effects. And I still think nowadays there's certain things that you can draw and put in animation that are much easier to kind of just make happen because you can just draw it in. Whereas if you're watching Discovery and they have a ropey bit of CGI, we know everyone's going to notice it and hit them hard for it. So I'd like to see some more races. I'd like to see some more species. I'd like to see and I'd like to see where they position themselves within Starfleet. Yes. I'd really like to know where they put themselves. That's what I'd really like to see.
Yeah, I let's see, what is something outside of obviously enjoying the fact that there's a comedy, probably something that I want to see. I would like to see callbacks to maybe even things that happened in the show. Like, I know Picard did a little bit of stuff like that, but I like the Easter eggs and the callbacks. I definitely want to see stuff like that again. And in reference to the aliens, that's something that that was something I was going to say was, a lot of the times you can do so much with animation. I mean, in the original series, didn't they have like a whole, like, or not the original, in the animated series, didn't at one point they have like a whole ass dragon or something in an episode?
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm like, you can, that wouldn't translate well to, I mean, sometimes you can. I mean, Game of Thrones, they did it pretty well, but, back then, obviously, it wouldn't have translated well. So it's kind of things like that. I mean, you can create, I want to see like a Tholian, give me a Tholian outside of the Enterprise's somewhat janky Tholian design CGI. As much as I love Enterprise, the CGI is 2000 CGI, and I can't say anything good about it. But I do love Enterprise, and I love the Tholians, and I know they're in the Star Trek Online. They play a big role in the story, but I would really like to see that show up in animation. Because that they could do something like that. They could do. I'm trying to think of, God, what was the name of that race that was silicon based in the original series? There was like a rock. It was just like a moving rock. Because things like that, like, again, it looked kind of janky, but you could probably do cool things like that You could do callbacks to these aliens that were shown maybe once, but never shown again just because of the quality of the CGI at the time, and be able to do it successfully. So that's the kind of stuff that the Horta. That's right.
Okay, that was it's called the Horta.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
The Horta.
I just remember it looking like somebody poured some stew on the floor and it grew, mutated, got a bit angry.
So I'm sure that stuff like that, they could do really nice callbacks to, and be able to animate it in a way that people will be like, oh wow, that looks really good. Trying to think of some other examples of
I've got one. I've got one which could be a challenge for them, right? Because they are known as the big bruisers of the universe, and there's only another species which kind of has given them pressure, but we won't get into that. Borg. How will we approach Borg in Lower Decks? They're not funny.
No.
Nothing about them is hilarious.
No.
So how would we approach that? That could be interesting.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to, seeing how they add comedy to like dark situations where you're like, because like in the promotional material, I don't remember the guy's name, but you can just tell he's gonna be there like. Let me find the picture. They're carrying him, and he's got like goo all over his hair, and his hair's all messed up, and like everyone looks fucked up. And I think it's the guy in the red shirt, and they're like carrying him, and he's just like. Looks like, this happens to me every day. And I feel like he's going to be that character where, like, bad stuff just always happens to him. He's going to be the Morty of the group. Just all the bad things are going to happen to him. And I'm really excited to see if my assumption is correct. Because he's the only one who's not, like, ready to fight in that picture. He's just getting carried around. I'm like, he's going to be that guy.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so I think that'd be good to see how they negotiate the more serious things. God, I'm gonna stop now because I'm just gonna start throwing species at you. But I'd love to see how Q would work in Lower Decks as well, because they are interested in the human race around this time a little bit more as well. So interesting. Right. Sorry, because I'll just be throwing species at you. I'll be like,
you're fine.
and that.
There's so many cool things that they can do, and I'm really excited to see that. Now, one of the other things we can do that's kind of like a bounce off that is what kind of cameos, and it doesn't even have to be like characters. It could be actors and actresses that you would like to see cameo in Star Trek. Like mine, I would like to see them put Jeffrey Combs. I don't know. I always say it wrong. I think it's Combs.
Coombs? Yeah, Coombs.
Jeffrey Combs in there to do another character, just adding to his list of Star Trek characters that he's done. I think it would be a nice callback to the fans to have him voice a character or something like that.
I think it'll be totally disrespectful not to have Jeffrey in, because we all know when they're sitting in the writer's room and they're like, we need somebody to play an alien who's really good at. Jeffrey just bursts through the windows. I'm here, guys. I am ready. Paint me blue or paint me grey. I'm here any time of day. I'm ready to go. Come on. How could we not have good old Jeff come down and play a character? I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that, Brie. That would be amazing. And his voice... He's an amazing voice actor as well. If you listen to his characters, whether you sit watching him on Deep Space Nine or whether you're watching him in Enterprise, it's amazing. It's like his voice is something that really gets you. So when we're watching him in animation, that's going to be amazing. Are we jerking around a bit in the video, Brie?
Yeah. I don't know. On my end, it's strictly buffering, but hopefully they have audio.
Because our Trek chat is so fat, that's why they can't handle can't handle the bandwidth of our chat.
I think it might actually be me, because I tried to bring up, because my phone is like this close to dying and it's got all my notes and whatnot in chat. So I was going to just transfer it over to YouTube, but I can't even really get my YouTube to pop up successfully. So it's definitely my internet, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the bad weather right now. So... we're just worst case scenario. I'll just have to grab my phone charger, which I might have to do real quick, so I can keep on track with the chat, because I just want to still be able to see you guys.
You can do that. I feel like I've been really rude with the chat. If you want to do that, I can have a quick chat with the guys on the chat real quick. Dino's saying Jeffrey Combs for the win. Yeah, you know what? We already said it, man. He's just played so many good characters. Voice acting means that he could play a much bigger range as well, so he could do all sorts, so that would be amazing. Donnie's saying, I can imagine Sir Patrick Stewart guest voicing in Lower Decks as the still in command of the Enterprise E, Jean-Luc Picard. Yes, you could. I mean, Patrick Stewart's voice, he still sounds like the good old same Jean-Luc. So, and he's not a stranger to doing animation, is he? So everyone's seen Family Guy. So that could be pretty cool. What else have we got here? Chuck said Garak.
I would love to see Garak.
He's definitely a species-defining character, isn't he? And I think having him, oh gosh, that's quite dark for Lower Decks. So how would they do that? Because Garak does drop some quite funny stuff. Like he is quite funny with his interactions with Bashir. So yeah, that could be quite interesting as well. How we doing, Brie? We good?
Oh, we're good. Yeah, no, we're saved. Yeah, I don't have to bring up my YouTube and slow things down even more, because that would have made things even worse. But it looks like things are working.
Somebody says, have you disengaged the inertial dampeners? No, we've not done that. We'll
tried turning it off and turning it back on again. What was it that Geordi says in that one episode? He's like, have you tried, it's literally, have you tried turning it off and back on again, but in Star Trek lingo. And it's one of my favorite lines in the show to like meme. It's like a little screenshot where people send on Twitter. And I forget what it says, but it's like, have you tried disconnecting the whatever and what? It's basically turn it off and back on again. And I'm like, wow, even in the future,
warp drive and reconnecting.
Yeah, again. It's like even in the future, that's the one way to fix things. Just turn it off and back on again. So
I've got a friend that works in IT, and we call him Mr. Switch It Off and Switch It On Again. And we've heard him. He's on call, so he gets calls through if there's any big IT problems. And we've heard him literally go, have you tried turning it off and just waiting for 5 minutes and turning it on again? We're like, that's your job. That is your job,
telling
bro.
people to turn it on. And that's why anytime I have issues, like I guarantee as soon as the stream is over, I have to turn my Wi-Fi off and leave it off for 5 minutes, turn it back on and see if it works.
Told you, it's because our chat is too fat, Brie. Our talk is too big for the bandwidth. Someone else, I don't know if you want me to be reading out comments all the time, but someone said a Star Trek Archer-ish. Something like Star Trek with Archer.
Now you're breaking up. Hey, Paul, you're breaking up completely. I cannot hear a word you said.
How about
that's
now?
Better. That's better. You're back.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay, all good. All good.
But what did you say?
So Ashley Summers said something like a Star Trek Archer style with running jokes. Now, this is quite interesting in Trek. Do we want running jokes throughout a season, or do we want episodic content? Now, this is a big thing for the Trek community, episodic content where we wrap it all up, or do we want big ongoing themes to be driving it?
So
interesting.
What I think is going to happen is it's going to be very similar to his other shows, where there's callbacks to things like previous episodes, but not necessarily an overarching plot. Like,
cool.
You know, evil Morty is something that comes back all the time in that show, but you know, it's not necessarily an episodic show. It's just something that, you know, pops up here or there. That's the kind of stuff I think that Lower Decks is going to do, where they kind of just reference back to previous episodes and whatnot.
Oh, that'd be cool. I like that. I'd really, really like that. That sounds cool. Yes. That sounds cool. So that's how I feel. I'm really, really excited for that. So that's kind of what I'd like to see from Lower Decks. Loads of stuff. I'm just really intrigued with where they're going to take it.
Yeah. Now, one thing before we move on to we have two more topics, and one of them is something that a lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions about, and that is the ship.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Oh man. Well, one thing I want to do is I'm going to mispronounce the ship so everybody can say it again, because I am terrible at pronouncing. So it's the are we still there?
Yeah.
Okay, one second. I'm just trying to see. All right, I think we've had a message through saying that the team is trying to make sure that everything sounds really good. Thanks, Kawhi.
Yeah. It sounds like the audio is good. It's just the video. It's so frustrating.
Our faces are just too strong. Too much bandwidth from our faces.
Too much power.
So it's the Cerritos California class, right? So Let me bring up the picture of it and have another
Yes.
look at it while we're talking about it, because I wasn't that offended at the start.
I'm not necessarily offended by it, but what I will say is that I think that I could take it out with a single photon torpedo. Because the two little things that hold it on, there's like this huge gap where there's nothing. It's like the disc, and then I think the nacelles, but there's this huge, just like a single photon torpedo, just like right through it, just gone. It's almost like the Klingon ships where you target the neck of it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's game over.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you. I'm looking at it now. Yes, it is packed full of weak points, right? And maybe. So I'm not going to talk about. There's another large star-based. Star Wars. All right, I said it. All right, cool. All right, guys, don't burn me too much for this. When I watched The Mandalorian, there was a scene where two stormtroopers were trying to hit a target, and it was quite close, and they were terrible and absolutely missing it. So they addressed the rubbishness of Star Troopers shooting, right? Are you going to tell me off, Brie? I'm not going to talk too much Star Wars after this. Don't worry, I'll get off this.
What?
So
No.
when you look at a ship like this, maybe this is something. All this stuff that we're putting out on Twitter. Don't forget that the team can be reading this and taking this on. There can be jokes written off the back end of even this conversation, Brie. Someone could see this. Some of the team could see this, and they could be like, you know what? There's a joke in how crap this ship is.
Mike McMahon is absolutely active on Twitter for people. Like, I think someone on the group, someone in the Star Trek Twitter community typed, like, you know, does anyone know what the abbreviation for Star Trek Lower Decks is going to be? And someone just like tagged him, and he's like, the abbreviation is, and instead of it was just Star Trek Lower Decks all pushed together with no spaces. He's like, that's the abbreviation. So it's like, you know, I know he's active in Star Trek Twitter because he comes in with jokes like that. So I would not be surprised if he did something like that, where he's just like, let's just toss a joke in for everyone.
That's what we want. So yeah, I mean, and 100%. So yeah, the ship. I want to see more of it. I feel like we've seen a little bit of the outside. We know that there's going to be jokes about the holodecks not working.
Yep.
Now that's an entertainment part of the ship, so that's obviously not going to be high priority. So if that's not working, what else is not going to be working on the ship? So is it a rickety ship, or is it a new ship that hasn't been put together very well? Yeah. I'm curious to see that. So I think whenever I watch a ship that isn't the Enterprise enter a screen when I'm watching Star Trek, it always jars me a little bit because it's not an Enterprise-looking ship, whatever you're looking at. So I'm always like, oh, that's not an Enterprise. Because we all have an affinity with the Enterprise, or we have an affinity with the Defiant, or we have an affinity with Deep Space Nine. Do you know what I mean? We know the ships that we like and love. So seeing a new ship, it could be another case, Brie, of just new rubbing up people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even when I watched Enterprise and I saw the old Enterprise, I was like, oh, it looks all right, but could do a bit of a tweak. But clearly, we're looking at one of the first starships that can hit warp 5. Do you know what I mean?
It's like there was one ship that just really it was only shown for a short period of time. I think it was a medical ship or something, and I think it might have been in Next Generation or all I remember is it looked wild, and I was like, okay, that's definitely a ship design. Not a good one, but it's a ship design. Like, I personally did not like I'm sure someone knows which one I'm talking about, and in chat it's probably gonna be, I don't know why I can't remember what it's from, but I think it was from Next Gen that you saw it. It was like a hospital ship or a medical ship, and it just had the weirdest, bulkiest design. But there's always like
I can't remember, but you expect the ship. Yeah, you expect a ship that its sole purpose is to heal people. It doesn't have to look sexy. It's not a flagship, Brie. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's functional. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you come into.
You're breaking up again on your end. No, your camera's still frozen. Why are you doing this today? Why stream?
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Your audio. You're back.
Okay, all right, wicked. Okay, cool. I did check my Wi-Fi. I'm doing all right.
All right.
I forgot what my role was, but yeah, you know what? I was just saying, you're totally right. They do look. It did look clunky, and when you think about it, when you go to a fast food joint, I was saying, you see the front, you see the shinier desk, you see the till, you see them. You don't see the people sweating in the back. Well, I don't know. Maybe certain burger joints, you see some people working in the kitchen. But you don't see, the stuff that goes, that goes wrong, or whatever. So yeah, be very interesting to see. Yeah, very, very interesting to see what this different style of ship looks like. And I like seeing behind the scenes as well. I like seeing what goes wrong.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I personally don't mind the style of the ship. I thought it was very interesting. It's definitely better than whatever the hospital ship was. So I personally don't mind the ship, but I definitely saw some people with some words about it. But
people like the pylons are too young. The engineering section with the deflected dish should connect to the upper saucer section. All that kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what, bro? Do you know what? Let's see what the blueprints are. Let's see if it can even hit warp 6. I don't even know how fast it's gonna be. Does it even have a torpedo bay? What is it packing?
Yeah,
we don't know, Brie.
What is the point? That's the other thing is what is this ship? Is it a diplomatic ship? Because they say there's second contact. So is it diplomatic? Are they like a research ship? Are they, what kind of ship is it? Like, what is their purpose? That's the kind of things where I think it'll really start tying the show together with what we should expect. Is when we find out truly.
Is there something in the military that's similar? Like, I know we've kind of, we've hit all four corners of the globe. I don't want to get too political there, but let's say that. Is there something that we can relate to when you were in the military that was similar to that, where you'd have a team that would go in after a team had gone in the first time in a situation?
Yes, in my job, sort of. It's called battle assessment. So after either an airstrike or a ground team goes in, because I worked intelligence. The job is then to see if it was successful, how unsuccessful. So that's kind of where I could see, how successful was the first contact, how unsuccessful, like what went right, what went wrong, because things can go wrong. So, there's definitely some relation there, and that's a really good point that I even think about is, what, as the secondary team, are they doing? And I can just think of all the situations that could go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. You know what? I think, to go back to what you said earlier, I think there might be somebody who's definitely in the military that's definitely doing the writing, because there's way too many.
There's too many references. There's just too many.
Way too many reference points.
Someone in there had to be in the Navy.
Definitely, we can find out. Also, does the saucer section detach? That's another conversation.
That's something I was curious about.
I'm not sure whether it detaches.
Because what I was thinking is, if it did detach, the design wouldn't look quite as it would like if it detached from that super weak point. I could be like, okay, yeah, because if you hit the weak point, both the parts are still there. But I think it would be interesting to see if it detached, because I think that could also be something that they could do comedy-wise for the show, like an episode, like one side gets lost or something, and they're like, shit, now what? Our command is off that way, and we're the lower decks, all the rest of us are just like left back here. Are we going to get saved? Like, what's going on? I can see a story like that unfolding.
Yeah. What do you mean we've lost half of the ship? Yeah, I would love that. I'd love that. That'd be cool. I mean, look, it's a new ship. We know it's not meant to be the best ship, so the fact maybe they built in some cruddiness in it, some crappiness on it. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm just willing to see what it's do. Size isn't everything, guys. Yeah, don't forget the Defiant. Yeah, did a lot.
Defiant
all right,
was great.
So good they had to put that in movies. All right, that was a kick-ass piece of ship. All right,
Defiant is probably the best ship that's ever graced the screens of Star Trek, in my opinion.
Hey.
It's the most powerful.
Hey, man. it's pound for pound.
Yeah.
Is one of the best ships ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, Brie. I just want to see it, man. I just want to see what it does. I want to hear them talk about its capacity. I have a feeling it's not going to be top spec.
No, but I don't want it to be top spec, because if it was, it would kind of take away from like the whole point of the show. They're not the best of the best.
Exactly.
So I'm extremely excited 100%. For that. But before we start wrapping up, I'm gonna open up chat, because we're right about at an hour. But I'm gonna extend it a little bit to open up to chat because we had so many issues, and see if there's anything like, what do you guys think about Lower Decks? Are you excited? What do you want to see? What do you not want to see? And is there any actors or characters you want to return? I know I'm seeing people talking about the Defiant, how it's a great tough little ship, and it is. It's just the best. We love the Defiant in this household.
Exactly. Somebody's actually. Oh, have I got it? Sorry, I will find your name and shout you out. But somebody's asked. I don't know if you've watched this, Brie. There's a show here called Red Dwarf, and it's been running for a really, really long time. And it's like a comedy take on space travel with some people. It is got lower-ranking officers of a starship, a mining ship, and lower-ranking officers, and it's also got a cat character that's mutated from the ship's cat over millions of years. And have you seen it at all? I don't know if you haven't. That's cool.
I haven't, but I know of Red Dwarf. Like, I've heard of it, and I know there's people that I know that watch it, but I've never seen it. I don't even know what it streams on, if it does stream.
It's a UK over here. The rights have been bought by someone called UK Play. They've got a channel here called Dave. You may be able to find them through various streaming places. Maybe some BBC. It was a BBC show, but the premise of the show, Brie, was quite similar. Actually, it was a guy that was really low ranking and he had to look after a whole ship, basically. And somebody's asked, "Do you think the comedy will be the same?" And I think potentially it might be, because when you're at that level of when you're at that rank on ships that we've seen, people do. Well, you told us yourself. You said it yourself. I don't even know why I'm saying it. You said it like people. You crack jokes with each other. You take the mick out of superior officers. Maybe you hook somebody up so they can hook you up. That kind of stuff. So there could be some Red Dwarf gags in there. I mean, it's very British comedy. It is like if the original series came out 30 years ago, maybe. So the comedy, if you watch it, is going to be very different to the snappiness that there is on stuff now. But yeah, could be very interesting. So yeah, that's what I saw. Sorry I didn't shout your name out. The comment flew past.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I'm definitely seeing some people who are lenient about it because it is a cartoon. But I know not everyone is a fan of cartoons. Personally, I am a big fan of adult cartoons. I'm also a huge anime fan, so I don't know. I'm just used to animation on my TV screens. So to me, it doesn't. Yeah. I don't even blink when another animated or a show of any kind comes out. I'm just like, all right, cool, just another thing to add to the list to watch. And I really like animation personally. So while it is a silly show, I am really looking forward to it. I think we need silly right now.
Defo. Yeah. We do. You know what, Brie? I'm 100% with you on that. We need some smiles. Yes. Definitely. And if it comes from Trek, that'd double be even win.
Better. Yeah. But let's see what else. Oh yeah, I did say someone was hoping to see like 7 of 9 or some maybe recurring characters. Barkley was the one that I saw. They were like, Barkley would be such a good fit to that ship as a guest character to like show up for a time, because he would fit in with the Lower Decks crew so well. He'd probably actually really vibe with them. So that's definitely someone where I could see definitely showing up and being a good cameo as a recurrent, like a character that was in other Star Trek shows.
Definitely. That would be very interesting to see. I think 7 and 9, yeah, as well. Yeah, I'm with you. That'd be I mean, there's so many opportunities for them to bring back characters because they're animating them. It's easy to do, so we could see all sorts. Jill's saying that we need silly. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm very
exactly.
excited.
I'm glad that you're into your anime as well. I love taking on anime. I think it's one of the most expressive art forms visually when you watch kind of the stuff that we watch. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Like,
people are putting loads of jokes in about Red Dwarf in there, so there's loads of jokes. I don't think I want to get into those because they're so niche, those jokes. But yeah, funny guys. Seal and Chris, they're absolutely smashing it right now.
I wish I had seen it. Now I gotta go and watch it. There's so many shows I need to watch. Like it's depressing. Yeah. It's depressing how many shows I don't watch because all I do is watch Star Trek and like a bunch of other shows I've seen 1,000 times. So I'm just that kind of person.
There's actually a funny time with Trek and Red Dwarf, actually, Brie, that a couple of people have mentioned, and that was he saw Red Dwarf and was tempted to sue Red Dwarf. Now, there's a couple of different versions of this. Yeah, so there's a couple of versions. There's one story that I think we've seen here where they said he watched it and he found it funny, so he decided not to sue. But I think he I think when he watched it, there's another. I think it might be an interview where he realized that they weren't really kind of nicking anything from Trek. It was kind of they took it in their whole own weird direction, which is, there's plenty of room in the sci-fi area. But yeah, there is a little time with Red Dwarf and Star Trek, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something I got to add to the list. Got a long list. It's growing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll get on to you about it. There's only like 6 episodes per season as well, so it's not a hard thing for you to smash through. It's not like 24 1-hour long episodes. So
someone
cool.
said Ensign Kim still as an ensign.
Oh, don't! Oh, poor Kim.
The infinite Ensign Kim.
Oh man.
Yes, have him show up. Have him be like, oh, gosh, when is this set in comparison to Voyager? Is it like 10 or 15 years after Voyager?
Yes, 15 or 20, I think. Yeah, oh, so wow. Yeah, it could be a Mr. Garrett Wong could be in there. Oh man, poor.
Just 40 or 50-year-old Garrett, just I'm just always gonna be an ensign. They just didn't promote me. Yeah. They're never gonna promote me.
A silver-haired ensign, yes. No pips.
Poor Kim. Oh.
Oh man, you know what? They could probably make a character like that, a guy who's been a forever ensign. That would be a pretty cool character to see.
I would love to see that. I know that they've got like a big buff Bajoran guy. I'm excited for that. As part of like the command crew. He's just like this big, like scary looking dude. He's a Bajoran. I'm just like, man, I have never seen a Bajoran built like that. And that's why I like animation. It's like you can show these characters that, you don't see. Like you can take a character that you perceive as like, oh, if you're good, if you're like, oh, you're gonna have a Bajoran character, you have one thing in mind, and then you have the animated show that's like, no, he's beefy and he's jacked and he looks like he's gonna be just the best character. I'm excited to see where they go with him.
Yeah, they flipped it on us with the Bajoran character there, because when you hear about Bajoran strong characters, my mind, because of what I've seen on Trek, usually goes to strong women. Yeah, I usually think, and there's.
I think of nimble and quick and because they work in cells. They're not like on the front lines, just like they're in and out. Like that's why when I saw like a big buff Bajoran, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this story. I'm very ready for this.
You got my eyes.
Yep.
I'm all over this. I'm over it. So yeah, I can't wait until the 6th. I'm so excited. So excited. So excited! I can't believe it's so close. And yeah, it's gonna be a heck of a watch. I think I'm ready to see people say they hate it. I'm ready to see people say they love it. And I just really want, like, if you do feel a way about the show, make sure you don't just say you hate it or love it, because the guys are on Twitter, like Brie said. People are watching it. So if you explain what you like and what you don't like, that can really help change stuff. We saw Klingons grow their hair back in Discovery Season 2. Yeah, we saw that happen. That was because of you guys. All right. So I think definitely expressing what we like and don't like about the show with a little bit of detail can really help us to make sure we shape it into something that's some great canon. Because to bring back the animation after 40 years or whatever, it's crazy. It's great.
It's exciting. I'm excited. But before we wrap up, I'm going to give you another minute or two. I know not everyone was here in the very beginning of the stream. If you want to give a little bit of a spiel about the kind of stuff that you do for anyone who missed the beginning part, so they can find you on social media and whatnot before we close out.
Cool. Well, obviously, the reason I'm here is because we're part of Trek Culture, which is a YouTube channel that really are big fans of Trek Central. We really love what you put out. And we are consistently putting out top 10 lists, ups and downs, comparisons, breakdowns, themes, video content that's really fun to watch in Star Trek universe. Yeah, really fun to watch in the Star Trek universe. Massive shout out to Adam, Chris, Ewan, Sean, the whole team, everyone else that kind of is helping to write, edit, produce. It's really, really good. Myself, I have a podcast called How to Kill an Hour. Find us on all podcast channels. That's Spotify, Apple, Acast, or whatever you listen to your podcast on. We do have a YouTube channel where we put up bits of content, which is kind of tech and stuff. So please feel free to look at How to Kill an Hour. I'm Marcus Bronzy. I think my Twitter's
right below
on the screen, but it's MARCUSBRONZY. Find me on there and let me know. You know what? I think It's really nice. Thank you, guys at Trek Central, for bringing me along. Thank you, Brie, and I'll definitely make sure that I engage in some conversation over the next few weeks with you guys, and we'll kind of throw stuff at each other. It'd be great if you threw stuff at me when you find out, it comes up with regards to Lower Decks, and I'll fire it back at you. It'd be good for us to share that with the community and see how we feel, because I think what we say over the next few weeks could still tweak what we see in the final episodes that come out.
Yes, I'm really excited. Oh man, the 6th cannot get here soon enough. I am so absolutely ready for the 6th to get here.